you caring for a loved one with dementia and are struggling with their challenging behavior? This presentation is going to help you create better peace and well-being in your household, not just for the person with dementia, but for you and the rest of your family. I'm Dr. Deborah Beer, Director of Special Populations for ComForCare and At Your Side Home Care.
Thank you for joining us today. Our presenter today is Dr. Deborah Beer, PhD. Dr. Beer is the Director of Special Populations for ComForCare and At Your Side Home Care. She has a doctorate in therapeutic counseling and a certificate in gerontology, as well as 25 plus years as a psychotherapist and home care director of care. She's also had a part in the development of the ComForCare and At Your Side's proprietary training, DementiaWise. ComForCare and At Your Side Home Care is an international non-medical home care agency. We provide non-medical home care and companion and personal care services and specialize in delivering dementia care services. Here's Dr. Beer.
Today we're going to talk about the definitions for Alzheimer's, dementia, and challenging behavior. And then we're going to understand why challenging behavior occurs in dementia. Then we're going to look at 5 methods to help create better days. And then we'll look at additional resources. This presentation is for educational purposes only, and the information is not intended to be diagnostic or to serve as a substitute for actual medical advice. Seek help from a licensed medical professional for health concerns or diagnosis. Let's look at the definitions for Alzheimer's, dementia, and challenging behavior. And we do this so that you can understand what I'm talking about and we're all on the same page together. Dementia and Alzheimer's are terms that are often used interchangeably and incorrectly. Dementia is actually a group of symptoms involving cognitive impairment, and there are many, many different types of dementia. Alzheimer's is one of those types of dementia. It's the one we hear about the most and the one that's most frequently diagnosed. But all Alzheimer's is dementia. Not all dementia is Alzheimer's. This is like all poodles are dogs, but not all dogs are poodles. All Fords are cars, but not all cars are Fords. Let's look at understanding why challenging behavior in dementia can happen. Let's first define challenging behavior. Challenging behavior is any that's unsafe, dangerous, destructive, or highly upsetting to the person with dementia or others around them. Notice I didn't say annoying, bizarre, or irritating behavior because families have been annoying and irritating each other forever. And that doesn't stop with dementia, and we shouldn't expect it to stop with dementia. We can't change all behavior that we don't like. And we also need to look at, is unusual behavior really a problem? Is it something worth trying to change? This is why challenging behavior should only be looked at as unsafe, dangerous, destructive, or highly upsetting. We can just leave the annoying stuff aside. We can't control other people fully, and we have to choose which behaviors are worth focusing on. Here are some of the common challenging behaviors we see in dementia. This is refusing care, arguing, wandering or eloping, rummaging behaviors, a refusal to change clothing or bathe, suspiciousness or agitation and pacing, and more. You know, in today's medical system, there really is no designated person or role that provides education for families. And families need and deserve a lot of education and information about what is happening and what will happen with their loved one. They especially need to learn best care practices, and unfortunately, this doesn't usually happen. They also need help creating a care plan for their loved one, and they need assistance in determining the costs of that care to understand how long they're going to have to sustain it. Families really benefit from assistance in finding these resources and the information that they need. This is why we offer these presentations. because families really need this information about best care practices. DementiaWise employs evidence-based behavioral interventions to help people living with dementia and their caregivers be happier, healthier, and have greater well-being. A group providing family education and support can be truly critical. Such a group can help significantly improve the quality of care and extend the time your loved one can stay at home, including for the rest of their lives. Education and support help motivate family members to remember to care for themselves. You know, the presence of family caregiver depression really sets the stage for inadequate dementia care and can lead to the decision to send a person with dementia to a facility. The right format of support and education has been proven to prevent caregiver depression, not just in the short term, but for even years after the group has ended. Research also shows that among people taking care of their spouses with dementia, that the reasons they feel so highly stressed were not because of the multiple years that care was needed, or the type of care needed, or even whether or not they brought in home care services. No, their high stress was related to the erosion of their psychological well-being and their isolation and loneliness. Most family groups for dementia include support and information sharing, but not education in dementia care. And we feel that the educational component is vital to include, and it's part of the DementiaWise support groups held by our local offices. This group is held for 5 weeks, for 2 hours each meeting, and it's kept small, usually no more than 15 members. We include education about dementia and dementia care, mutual support, caring for the caregiver, and brainstorming any care challenges you've been dealing with during the weeks that it's held. And our support groups are a community service we offer free of charge, so contact your local ComForCare or at your site office to enroll. I'd like to show you this video about our DementiaWise Family Caregiver Support and Skills Group. You'll learn more about what goes on in the group, and you'll hear from some members about their participation.
My husband started with it almost 10 years ago.
I was probably in denial for the first 2 or 3 years.
Suddenly, the child feels like it's role reversal and you're becoming a parent.
Logical, reasonable person I used to know no longer exists.
You feel pretty trapped.
You have your own guilt.
Admitting that you could use some help.
When dementia comes upon your family, you don't really know about it.
It's really painful to watch families suffer and struggle with dementia when we know that better skills and more support could make a huge difference to them. And that's why we provide the support group.
Some friends of mine encouraged me to come to it.
And I said, yes, I'll go.
And we also give them skills to take care of themselves, because caregiver burnout is a very serious problem.
You must take care of yourself so that you can take care of your loved one.
Caring for a loved one with high care needs is a very isolating experience.
Before you go to a support group, you either feel like I'm the only one that this is happening to, or I don't have any answer.
DementiaWise is based on very strong research.
They give us like a booklet where it breaks down the different areas on what stays around the longest, what goes first, and how to respond to it.
All forms of dementia are different, and through this class I have learned that.
If you're struggling every day with your loved one, caring for them, or you worry about them from a distance and feel helpless, this support group can help you.
It really gives you a healthy sense of where you are in the journey.
We're with people that had the same problems you had, and you could see how they dealt with them, and then you could give some insight on how you deal with yours.
Helps ease some of the frustration of feeling isolated.
It will never be easy, to care for someone with dementia, but it doesn't have to be as hard as it is.
You had so many people who were viewing it from different lenses.
It's very clear that when you use the best practices, often things are so much better. They can again be a spouse, be a daughter. Absolutely marvelous to see the transformation that the participants go through.
It made you feel like, well, you were normal, that I was okay.
They can resume their relationships better, and that's what it's about.
I think I feel like it's doable.
DementiaWise best care practices are designed to serve people at all stages of dementia and of all dementia diagnoses. DementiaWise uses a person-centered care approach, and DementiaWise incorporates meaningful activities based on the person's interests, skills, and remaining abilities. DementiaWise also provides support and information for family members, and our mission is to help you become a more effective caregiver. Best care practices help a person with dementia be able to participate daily in their care as much as possible. They may move from full assistance to partial assistance, or from partial assistance to greater independence. And in either case, they should be happier and enjoy life with fewer challenging behaviors. We're looking to create a series of ongoing small victories that result in increased participation in their care and acceptance of care, and their ability to retain some autonomy. Full independence may not be possible and may even be unlikely with dementia. So what do I mean by small victories? Well, here's one. Let's say your loved one wakes up in the morning and gets dressed in clothes that are appropriate for the season, but they're wearing plaids, stripes, and florals together. It's a small victory that they picked out the right clothes and put them on by themselves. The clash of the colors and the patterns, that's really not important. That's just an annoyance or an irritation. They've done something important that we're going to allow them to feel pride about by saying, wow, you got dressed by yourself? You know, you really have quite a fashion sense, you might want to add. It's really important to realize that challenging behavior usually isn't about the person with dementia. It's usually because we as caregivers are triggering this behavior. We don't do this intentionally. We would be crazy to do this intentionally. We are doing our best. You are doing your best. We just need to help you develop the skills and awareness that you need for best care practices for dementia, because dementia care is different than other types of care. As caregivers, we need to examine our attitudes and behaviors with an open mind because we are the ones that need to change. We cannot ask the person with dementia to change. They are doing their very best as well. By changing how we interact and care for the person with dementia, we improve their quality of life, safety, their moods, and their ability to function. We will also, as caregivers, save time and make care easier, more effective, and efficient. I'd like to tell you a story about how changing care methods benefits everyone. This happened in one of our local offices. A family had a loved one, an elder loved one with dementia, who was extremely agitated, and he was hyperkinetic. He was moving around all the time, and he would run out of the house, and they had to literally drag him back in, bodily carry him. And they were exhausted, and they couldn't do it anymore. So they called for some help with his care. A DementiaWise trained caregiver came, and within the first 2 hours, as the family watched from afar, he got less and less and less agitated and more calm. And within 2 hours, he was laughing and telling stories with the caregiver. They were astonished. Such a huge change, but that had to do with the caregiver knowing how to engage him and keep him calm. The DementiaWise care philosophy prevents challenging behavior before it starts, and what we're not able to prevent, we keep working at to reduce in both frequency and intensity. We work to reduce these until the behavior is no longer challenging. It's not unsafe, dangerous, or destructive. It still may be irritating or annoying, but with dementia, remember, we have to allow that. While care may not become downright easy for the caregiver, it can become less of a challenge to you. And with best care practices, we create better days for everyone involved. So what does a better day look like, both for you as the caregiver and for your loved one as the person living with dementia? Better days means that both of you have less tension, more positive emotions. You're working together as an effective team. The person with dementia is able to do as much of their care as their disabilities allow them, and you're working together. There are good moods, fun times, enjoyable activities, peace and quiet even. Does this seem like an impossible ideal to reach? Well, it's not. It's just very different from what we are used to seeing in dementia care. DementiaWise yields these wonderful results, and while it's rare, there are other services and facilities around the world who use similar methods and get great results. I'd like to show you one from Australia.
Starrett Lodge is a wonderful place to visit. It's filled with laughter and happiness that I've never experienced in any other senior care facility in the United States or elsewhere.
We don't miss out on anything that's part of life.
It began really with the idea that people's behavior was determined a lot by what went on in the environment. The director, Colin, discovered that light was crucially important to the way people behave with each other and on their own. And the first thing he did was to change the physical environment by bringing in more light.
Light helps with depression, it helps with circadian rhythms so they sleep better. The staff have got more options, they come outside now in the garden.
He did a number of other modifications to the physical environment too, all of them, by the way, supported by excellent science. What he discovered was not only did the physical environment change, but the behavior of people who lived there began to change. They began to gravitate and migrate toward the light and toward a friendlier way of being with each other.
Starrett Lodge showed me that it was possible to have extraordinary care. People could be active, they had capacities that continued, and that good care meant finding what their capacities were, nourishing them, having them continue doing things perhaps differently than they had before, but that they were capable of a great deal when they got encouragement and when their self-confidence was renewed by people.
The how it's done is not as important as the why, the reason for living, the internal essence of why should I still be alive? Why should I still want to stay here? And the why is so important, to have that reason, the why, the will to live, the will to do things. And we have to inspire people to still to do that in aged care. That you're not dead until you're dead. So you've got to live until you die.
Life is just one experience after another, and I don't know of any place before I came here or since I've been here that would hold a candle to this place.
It not only met my expectations, but it far exceeded them, as I saw a place that I think is the best quality care that I've seen.
This model of care can be achieved in almost any environment if you have the right idea and the right people doing it.
So if you can help someone still remember and retain who they are, and where they are and why I'm still here. That's got to be better.
Let's look at these 5 methods to help create better days. They are to focus on feelings, mind your emotional displays, respect personal preferences, make care person-centered, and improve communication skills. Let's go over them one by one. The first is to focus on feelings. This is the path to greatest success. We'll create positive emotional experiences for the person with dementia. All interactions and care tasks can become a positive emotional experience for everyone involved if we use the best care techniques. Those small, positive experiences add up to increase cooperation and acceptance of care. And when loved ones with dementia have a good day, their family and caregivers have a good day too. We have to focus on their feelings and our body language because very often when we've had a repeated difficulty with a particular care task, let's say showering, that the next time that care task comes up, our self-talk goes something like this. Oh, gosh, this was really terrible last time, and it's going to be really hard this time. Oh, why do we have to do this? She's so uncooperative. And we talk ourselves into all of this tension that shows. And we walk into the room loaded for bear, and our body language shows it. And the person with dementia takes one look at us and thinks, I don't know what's going on here, but I don't want any part of it. And the fight begins before anyone has said a word. This is something we can avoid by watching our body language. We want to focus on feelings because an improved mood helps people with dementia function better. Family caregivers know their loved ones best, and they know how to positively influence their mood. You've been doing it since you were a child, and you can continue as an adult. We want to nurture their emotional well-being because with most dementias, the person has all emotional abilities intact until the very end of life. People with dementia experience all human emotions just like you and I. They have what I call emotional accuracy, which means that when we look at them, we can accurately and quickly tell that they're happy or sad, angry, whatever it is that they're feeling. And in turn, people with dementia can look at us and accurately interpret what our body language means. They know what we're feeling. They look at our faces. They look at our posture. They look at how we make gestures. They listen to our voice. Maybe they don't understand the words we're saying, but they listen to the pitch and the speed to see if we're relaxed or tense. People with dementia can also retain feelings over time, even if they can't recall what caused them to have these feelings. So, for example, if they had a good experience in the morning when they got up, they might be in a good mood for some hours, even though they don't remember why they feel good. And the same is true of if they feel angry or upset or frightened. They may not remember the incident, but they will recall the feeling. They can also consistently associate feelings with people, places, or things. So if you're a person they've had a good relationship with, even if they don't recognize you, don't know your name, or know that they've ever met you, they'll have positive feelings just seeing you. The same is true if you've had a difficult relationship with them. They may not remember you, but they'll have those feelings and they'll be accurate. One of the many ways to help people with dementia be happier every day is through listening to and making music and rhythm. People with dementia understand and remember music and rhythm until the end of life. Take a look at this video.
If you ever leave me, how my heart would ache. Dinah, blow your horn. Dinah, won't you blow? Dinah, won't you blow your horn? Oh, please don't. my sunshine away.
Dementia makes it hard for folks to move with coordination, but when we use rhythm, we see people having a lot better movement when we can give them a beat.
To bring rhythm into a program is incredible because it's natural to snap your fingers, to tap your feet.
We like to make music too. We've done, you can pull out instruments.
Clapping activities, stamping activities, and then turning that actually into dance has really blossomed. We were slow dancing, and it was to a Gershwin tune. And then he just started talking. Do you remember when we heard the big bands? And we didn't mind paying that whole $1 to go see them. And he looked up at me, and of course I wasn't anybody from his generation. I just smiled, and he kept talking about our favorite songs and danced for 2 full songs with me.
As we go through the activities of daily living, we can use music as a tool to help someone to take a bath.
He connected with the rhythm of that song. More than any explanation that I could give him, he made it through that bath better than any other.
When someone's agitation is getting higher and higher, music is perfect to come in and change that track into a new focus.
The second DementiaWise method is that we need to mind our emotional displays. Family caregivers can trigger behavior problems through our own unguarded emotions. You only want to bring the emotions into the room with a person with dementia that you want them to pick up and catch. Like a cold, they will pick up your emotions and often reflect them right back to you in a magnified way. So before we have any interaction with someone with dementia, before we do any care task or any time that suddenly things are going badly, we want to check ourselves. Look at our body language, our facial expressions, what is our posture? Does this look warm and friendly, or does this look warm and friendly? And if you're working with someone who you really don't like, or maybe the circumstances are really hard for you to be positive, I invite you to fake it until you make it. Because when you do that, things are going to go better and you will be happier. It will become genuine. So here are the things that we want to become aware of and adjust when we check ourselves. Our facial expression, our postures, our position, signs of tension. Try to appear relaxed as much as possible. The way we use gestures, the quality of touch, the touch that says, I'm here for you, hi, I want to comfort you, versus don't do that kind of touch. Even without words, people with dementia will pick up the difference. And then in our voice, we want to moderate the speed and the pitch of our voices so we sound relaxed and warm. The third DementiaWise method is to respect their personal preferences. We all need to feel that we're known, respected, and personally understood by the people around us. People with dementia have personal preferences, and they remain through the end of life. And just like you and me, their preferences may change over time, though they are fairly stable. When we respect their personal preferences, it tells them without words. It demonstrates to them that we care about them and we want them to be happy. Respecting their personal preferences whenever possible is a key to a successful interaction. I'd like to show you an example of what I mean by respecting their preferences, even if they're not your preferences. Take a look.
The residents themselves at their meetings decided they wanted to achieve things they'd never done in life before. So they started a bucket list and they put all their wishes for what they want into a hat. So each person in turn, by drawing their name out of the hat, gets a turn at achieving their bucket list, and it is incredible results what they're doing. The lady wants to go and have a helicopter ride, so that's going to happen.
Well, one lady wanted to take her friend
somewhere posh for a meal.
We had a limousine, we had flowers pinned on our lapels, and we had the most beautiful breakfast, lunch, a few little nips of, whatever, and it was absolutely beautiful.
We had a beautiful view.
Yes, beautiful blue.
View.
I beg your pardon?
We're right out over the ocean.
Yes,
Yeah, it was lovely.
The view was beautiful.
Oh, it was a wonderful day, really grand.
Marcia even said it was the best day of her life.
One of our men is going to go deep sea fishing. They've been to gardens, they've been to Hunter Valley, to the vineyards. They're going everywhere and having a ball.
You've got to have something to look forward to.
What a beautiful result from choosing their own preferences. One of these lovely ladies chose her own bucket list item, a posh lunch with a friend, and it was the best day of her life. This would be difficult to improve on, and it allowed them to do something that isn't typical for people with short-term memory loss. They made new memories and were able to report on them. They also had photos of the events which acted as cues for their new memories. Taking photos of daily events can help people with dementia share them with others who aren't present. This next video clip shows the same people, in this case actors, one with Alzheimer's and the other her caregiver. We'll see them in different clothing as we follow them through 3 stages of Alzheimer's: early, middle, and late. In each case, the way the person with dementia is asked about her preferences changes as her abilities change. Take a look.
Do you want apples? Yes, let's get some red ones. Do you want red apples or green apples? I like red ones. You like red apples. Let's get some of these.
Let's talk about what we just watched. First, remember that no one is a textbook and there are no perfectly one-size-fits-all methods of care. In this video, we see in early Alzheimer's, the caregiver asked about the client's preferences in an open-ended question, and she was able to handle that. If the choices ended up being too overwhelming and too wide, she could refocus the question. Would you like apples or pears? Or how about a melon? And she would need to pause between each question. By mid-Alzheimer's, the caregiver knows to narrow the choices to only 2, using the visual cues of the apples themselves. In late Alzheimer's, the person's ability to speak and understand is greatly impaired. Here, the caregiver depends upon her prior knowledge about the person's preferences. And she shows the red apple, confirming it's the person's preference, even though she's not able to speak much, if any, at all. And notice the caregiver also made eye contact with her to make sure she was heard. Optimally, the caregiver would ask the questions standing to the front of the person, not behind them, which was done here so the camera could see what was happening. So do you know and respect your loved one's preferences? We want to consider their preferences for eating, bathing, and dressing, what time they wake up in the morning or when they go to bed at night, their activities or hobbies, such as their favorite music or entertainment, and for the people who care for them and visit. If you can meet their personal preferences and keep them safe, why not do it? This is going to increase their cooperation and acceptance of care. The 4th DementiaWise care method is to make care person-centered. We always want to put the person before the care task. We want to focus on that person's feelings and not about how much we need to accomplish this care task. Of course we need to do care tasks, but they will be much easier if we make the care person-centered. If we include them in the care and let them do what they still can do based on their still existing abilities, then they will do much better. They'll feel more connected to both the caregiver and the task. When we make care person-centered, we start out by using what I call making a warm connection. It's a key to success. You know, as human beings, we need warm connections between us. Always make a warm connection before each and every care task and whenever things are not going well. First, you check yourself, and then you make a warm connection in that order, again and again and again. Here are a variety of ways to make a warm connection, and which one you use is going to depend upon you and the person that you're caring for. These are just examples. So very important that you get down and stay on their level if they're seated or laying down, that we're not talking over them. You might want to hold hands or use some other kind of relaxed and positive touch. Of course, smile, look relaxed, make eye contact. Express that you're happy to be with them. You want to use their preferred name. And maybe you want to spend the time in warm connection singing favorite songs together, or maybe you could sing to them. Maybe swap jokes and laugh together, and don't worry if the punchline doesn't make any sense. Pick up and view some photos or drawings that they like, and maybe talk about a pleasurable topic, something that they're interested in. Express admiration to them about something they've done, about their home, or how they look. Maybe share a favorite story or memory, and be patient if it's one that you've heard 100 times. Enjoy their pleasure in telling it. Or engage in some kind of chit-chat. How are you? I'm fine. How's the weather? How are the kids? It only takes a minute to make a warm connection, but it can save you a lot of headaches. The fifth DementiaWise method is to improve your communication skills, and these are special skills that you need for a person with dementia. You know, between human beings, a lot of the problems that we have is that communication has gone wrong, and that often is the basis where things aren't going well with your person with dementia. Their communication abilities have broken down due to their illness, and they don't necessarily understand you, what you say with your speech, and you don't necessarily understand them. You have a communication problem. And these communication difficulties can lead to challenging behaviors. Improving communication really works to reduce challenging behaviors. Let's look at 3 types of communication: nonverbal, behavioral, and verbal. As we've already talked about, nonverbal communication is really important when you're working with someone with dementia, and I think it's really the most important type because we're not necessarily watching it, and it gets us into all kinds of trouble. As their verbal abilities decline due to dementia, it becomes even more important that we're really conscious and clean about our nonverbal communication. We want to use gestures such as pointing or miming to clarify a meaning. We can use touch when we're giving instructions, or when we're answering or asking questions or making requests, or doing activities that deal with the body. For example, does it hurt here? Or are your hands cold? Are your hands cold? Miming the gesture. If we're having trouble understanding their words, we want to look at their body language to understand what they're feeling. And if their speech contradicts their body language, we want to look more towards the body language as being true. As we've already discussed, we know that their nonverbal communication skills last until the end of life. They understand our nonverbal communication. They know what we're feeling, maybe even better than we are if we're focused on a care task instead of our body language. And they interpret our nonverbal communication as being something that relates to them or what's about to happen. We may be thinking about something that's completely unrelated, but of course they wouldn't know that, and they think the tension that we're showing because we're ruminating about something that's upsetting is about them or about the next care task, which they're not going to want to be a part of. Let's look at behavioral communication. As their verbal abilities decline, their challenging behavior becomes a form of communication, and it's up to us to interpret and discover what they mean by their nonverbal communication. They're showing us some kind of an underlying unmet need, and we need to be detectives and figure it out. Until we find out what they mean by their nonverbal communication, our solutions may not be effective. But once we understand what they need and what they mean, we can create solutions that are right on target. So what do I mean by understanding the meaning of their behavior? Well, let's consider these two stories about Harry and Sarah. They don't know each other, and they live at different facilities, but they both have Alzheimer's disease. Harry gets up when everyone is asleep, wanders around the facility, and jiggles the doorknobs and opens up the doors, and generally upsets the residents who are trying to sleep inside. Sometimes he even manages to get out of the building. Sarah, on the other hand, is a little more declined than Harry, and she's very confused about night and day. She's up during the night and sleeping during the day. So she's awake when everyone else is sleeping, and she's wandering around looking for something to do. Now, it turns out Harry had a history of being a night watchman. He was very proud of this job. He took it on when he and his wife were expecting their first child, and he was able to make the money that they needed to keep the family going. And he thinks he's going on his night watchman duty. The solution for Harry was that a staff member would come and get him and say, "We've got to do our night checks." And they would check windows and doors in a part of the building where no one was trying to sleep. And then Harry could go to sleep happily. Sarah, on the other hand, just didn't know what to do with her time while she was awake and everyone else was asleep. She needed one-on-one care where she could be engaged in activities that kept her out of trouble. Notice how these two different people require different solutions because they had different reasons for their nighttime wandering. They each had a purpose and a meaning to their behaviors, and the solutions had to respect those purposes and meaning as well as their personal preferences and individual history. The third type of communication is verbal communication. And as people's ability to speak and make understandable speech declines, frustration and anger can develop on both sides when you're making a request of a person with dementia, both you and the person who doesn't understand what you're talking about. It's important to know that they're not trying to be uncooperative. Maybe they can't remember what you're saying from the beginning of your sentence to the end. They are doing their best, and they probably feel like a failure. And they may even come to believe that you're the one who's confused. We need to make requests to them that they can fulfill. So we want to give them one instruction at a time. Get your sweater and come downstairs is actually 2 instructions. We want to break things down into steps. We want to say, get your sweater, and once they've done that, now let's go downstairs. There can be frustration because the requests from a person with dementia are hard for us to understand. Maybe they've mixed up the order of the words. Maybe they can't get their words out. They have aphasia. Maybe they've developed an inability to speak clearly. Or maybe they're using the wrong words, or they're just using a hodgepodge of things that sound like words, but they're really what I call word salad. They don't make any sense. They can be very hard to understand. Do not correct them when we can't understand them, and instead ask for more information, such as, can you tell me more about it? Or can you show me? Or if you think they're asking for a thing, what is it used for? Use gestures and touch to clarify. And check yourself and make a warm connection so that we're not triggering challenging behavior. I'd like to mention what we should do when people with dementia have stopped speaking, and the assumptions that we make about what we should do to interact with them. Very often, we will stop speaking to them, and that's really the incorrect approach. I want to tell you a story. One of our local offices went to a memory unit in their area and brought a couple of caregivers to do a music program. And while they were setting up their equipment, the caregivers were interacting with the residents. And one of the caregivers sat down next to a resident and chatted her up, and they had a little discussion. And when the staff of the memory unit noticed this, they all stopped what they were doing, and they were astonished. They couldn't believe what they were seeing, because this person, who they'd been caring for every day, had not spoken a word for at least 6 months. And there she was, comfortably chatting. Well, what our caregiver did was she used all of the DementiaWise best practices for engaging and conversing with someone. She didn't know that this person didn't speak. She just assumed that she should talk to her and engage with her using warm connection and checking herself. We should always continue talking to people with dementia, whether or not we think they can speak to us, because we never know what they can understand. It could be that she stopped speaking because no one spoke to her anymore. Let's not make the same mistake. Here are a few more communication tips. You want to approach them from the front so they can see you, but a little to the side, because in body language, coming straight from the front can be confrontational, but a little to the side means supporting. We want to make sure that we have their attention before we start talking to them, so we want to make some gentle eye contact, not staring them down, but gentle and warm. Use the name that they prefer, and tell them right away your name and why you're there. Don't wait for them to be confused. I'm Debbie, and I'm here to spend some time with you. And you want to use simple language and gentle words. You want to ask one question at a time, and make it a yes or no question, or one that has just 2 choices. 2 is all people from mid-disease on can really handle. We want to simplify our speech, but we don't want to take all their choices away from them. So always give them 2 choices. Avoid saying no, don't, you can't, or I told you and don't you remember, because they don't. Don't worry if their words don't make sense. Look at the emotions that they're expressing and be informed by them. And when you approach them, don't get in within arm's reach until you know that they're happy to see you. Don't rush right in, because that's a good way to get assaulted if they don't want you near them. Let's talk a bit more about not using negative language. The reason we avoid saying don't or no is for several reasons. First, it sets the stage for a fight, and we try to prevent fights. Also, these words are often used alone, as in, no, don't. But the person with dementia is not being given enough information to understand what you're referring to. You also have to give them an alternative behavior that is acceptable. So say, if you're in the kitchen and the person goes to pick up a knife you don't think they're safe with, give them an alternative behavior that is acceptable to you, instead of, no, don't put that down. Tell them, oh, I need you to stir the cake batter. Then take the knife or ask them to put it down, so they go for the batter instead. Here's another example. The person with dementia notices this box of candy on the kitchen table, and it's only 10 a.m., but they want it now. So here's what might be a normal, usual but not helpful way of addressing this. No, you can't eat that candy at 10 a.m. You just had breakfast. And now we get into a struggle, control struggle, because the person with dementia is an adult. They've been able to make these decisions for themselves for decades. Another way that isn't helpful but is probably pretty typical is, I told you no. Well, they can't remember that. And you're also not telling them what the no is about. They don't have a context. So what you're going to see are emotional outbursts and challenging behavior. Once you get into that kind of struggle, nobody wins. Let's focus on what they can do instead. And let's use the same example of the candy box at 10 in the morning. Oh, you want a snack now? And the reason you say this is you're acknowledging their interest, and you're not saying no, you're not starting a fight, you're agreeing with them. I have some delicious applesauce. Let's have some together. So you offer an alternative, and you offer some social eating, because often eating together will help them eat with you and behave in a way that is more helpful. So then we can also redirect, let's go outside for a walk together before our snack. So this gets them out of the kitchen, where the candy is on the table, and it also adds a social aspect and some exercise. So we want to present better choices because they can't come up with them themselves. They need our help. An even better way to address this is don't leave candy on the table at 10 a.m. because this could happen. Only leave appropriate choices out and visible during the time that they can be used. Already you've learned a lot about DementiaWise methods. Now I want to share with you this video which shows DementiaWise in practice. You'll be able to see how much the improved care has meant to one mother and daughter.
It destroys relationships and families. It's a terrible disease.
Just when you think you get it, it changes again. It's a heartbreaker.
It's tiring. It's exhausting. And that's where we come in. Families really do appreciate what we do and how we help them through a very difficult time.
Most places want to fit you into a box, whereas I felt with ComForCare, they were very happy to come in and custom design it with us.
DementiaWise is a program where we instruct and teach our caregivers how to interface with the dementia clients.
This program goes more in depth to the mental aspects and how to relate and how to think outside the box.
We go through the phases of the disease. We walk through the things that are left and the things that are lost.
Our focus and training with ComForCare has always been, let's focus on where they're at. And I think that is the best way.
Doing it for them does not promote their self-esteem. So we teach them how to do it with them. So the relationship gets built and it gets stronger because now the respect is shown.
The education really did help with finding ways that we could help and be proactive. Biggest thing is we change. They can't.
The educational tools that we have are by far exceed anything that anybody else has.
Many of the caregivers from other agencies had dealt with dementia, but they really didn't understand how to help a dementia person live where they're at that time. But what this program did, took their experience, and now they have tools and they could put them together. Now they knew what they could do.
We find that it works.
Miss Jo is a real treat, actually. She can't speak to you a lot, but her face can tell you everything.
She's always a great listener, even now, just a regular mom. I can't think of any other way to honor your parent than to let them live in their home.
Stability and safety are the two main things somebody needs. And here in this house, she has that.
I love Elizabeth. She is a very upbeat person, and my mom loves that. She makes her feel calm. They joke. She paints her nails. I mean, I never thought to do that, but she does, and my mom loves it. They'll call me and say, Mary Jo, Miss Jo did this today. They'll send me pictures on the phone of her, or they're doing something together. They make my day. She's been in the hospital 3 times. I have the caregiver there who is my mom's advocate. They're making sure that my mom is getting the care she needs. She's with someone she knows and who loves her. That, honestly, was the best. Her spirit gets their spirit, that they do care about her, and she feels loved. My first caregiver coined the phrase, Miss Jo loves you with her eyes. And I thought, oh my gosh, they got it. I have 3 girls that still, when they're in town, will call me and ask me if they can visit my mom There's no greater honor and joy for me.
The DementiaWise program will change the way that their loved one behaves, will make their days better.
I can come in and actually my night with her and enjoy her. We can watch a movie together. I can massage her hands.
There's days when sometimes you need that smile, and I get that smile from her. And she makes my days better.
The joy that comes from us knowing that she is so well cared for between her children, my caregivers, and ComForCare. We all work together, and therefore her world is complete and safe. And she's as happy as she can be, and therefore that brings us joy.
It's kind of like having another grandmother.
And I'm forever indebted to those girls. Yeah, you love your mom.
I just want to check in with family members right now. Some of you may be feeling guilty that you've been providing care in a very different way than I've been describing today for your loved one with dementia. I think you really need to let go of feeling bad and feeling guilty because you didn't know best care practices. You didn't know what you learned today until today. You will do better from here on out. But I want to warn you, it's not something that you just flip a switch and you've got your new care practices and you turn off your old ones. It's a process that's going to take some time. You will notice yourself doing things the old way, and you'll catch yourself and you'll make a change. And that is part of the process for everyone, particularly when you're caring for a family member. In conclusion, best care practices can help prevent or reduce challenging behavior. If we change our way of caring for them, it can improve their behavior. We have to be selective in deciding which behaviors of theirs that we want to see changed. Here are some additional resources. Are you a family member of someone with dementia or a healthcare professional who manages dementia care, caregivers, or families dealing with dementia? Our offices can help you with strategies and solutions to your dementia care challenges. Contact your local ComForCare or At Your Side home care office for information about our dementia care program. And if you'd like to learn more about DementiaWise care methods, there are many that we didn't discuss in this presentation. Look for DementiaWise presentations and family caregiver groups in your area held by our local offices. Sign up to receive free information about dementia and other topics by going to our websites. Here are a couple of citations about research I referred to in this presentation. Thank you for joining us today.